Hello everyone. So welcome to this playful practice. So we're going to be exploring pigeon pose by doing some movements that actually help prepare the body. As always, sorry, if something doesn't feel good to you, skip it. Please do not force. You know your body better than anybody else. And just knowing that there's another video that I've created that's a more of an in-depth tutorial on how we do pigeon pose, why we do it, and ways that you can vary it so that it might make it more accessible without strain. So please feel free to check out that video. Link is below. But if you do want to join me, I'm going to be using a couple blocks. Not necessary, but if you have them, maybe grab them, and maybe a blanket. Okay? So we're going to begin in a seated position. Hands on the knees, eyes gently closed. Just take a moment to check in and just notice how you feel. Take a deep breath in and let it go. One more time. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And then bring your awareness to your breath. Just feel the breath. You can either maintain a nice, natural, smooth breath, or if you like, you can introduce the ocean-sounding breath, Ujjayi. Allow your breath to remain smooth and deep as you practice, not forcing it, but try not to hold the breath. And then introducing some movement, go ahead and flutter the eyes open. And if you like, you can make some circles with your wrists. Take your time, try not to feel rushed. And then going the other way. You might hear some snap, crackle, pops. It's normal. And then lowering the arms. Let's do some sun breaths. Inhale, sweeping the arms out and up. Then exhale as we lower. 2 more times. Inhale, reach out and up. Exhale, lower. Inhaling out and up. And then exhale, lower. Inhale, just raise your right arm. Grow tall, lengthen the spine, reach up. And then exhale, a little side stretch to the left. And just notice you might feel a little bit of a stretch in the side body here, and maybe even a little bit in the hip. And then on your next inhale, coming back up to center, change arms. Inhale, grow tall, reach up, and exhale, a little side stretch to the right. Then inhaling back up to center, and then we're going to transition onto our hands and knees. If you like to place a blanket or padding underneath the knees, feel free to do so. So we're going to do some cat-cows. Inhale as we arch the spine. Exhale as we round. Inhale as we arch. Shoulder blades move down the back. Exhale as we round. Broaden between the shoulder blades. One more time. Inhale as we arch. And then exhale as we round. And then inhale, coming to a neutral spine. Maybe taking the feet a little closer together and the hands slightly forward. We're going to do some big hip circles. So just taking the hips around and back, and then around and then forward. Just nice big circles. Go at your own pace. Smooth breathing. One more time. And then the next time you come forward, change direction. Go the other way. One more time. And the next time you come forward, come back to a normal hands and knees position with the hands right under the shoulders, knees and feet hips width. And press the floor away from you, drawing the lower belly in a bit. We want to stabilize the pelvis and the low back as we take some little hip circles with one leg at a time, taking the right leg out to the side and around. So now we're just warming up the muscles on the outside of the right hip. And just getting them moving. So these muscles on the outside of the right hip are the ones we'll be stretching for the front leg in pigeon pose. In this case, at first it'll be the right leg. So doing this action actually warms up that hip and makes it a little bit easier to do the stretching later. And then going the other way. And then next time you bring the right leg down, take it straight back, toes curled under, press out to the heel, draw the lower belly in. And if you like, extend the right leg back and bring the left arm forward for pigeon. For bird dog. Then exhale, lower the left hand. Now take the right foot across behind the left leg, down to the floor, toes curled under. Lengthen the spine, inhale, and then exhale, little side stretch looking over your left shoulder. And then exhale, bring that right leg back to where it was originally in hands and knees. Going the other way, the other side. So we'll take the left leg out to the side and around and back. Nice slow circles. Warming up that left hip. And then go the other way. And then take the left foot straight back, toes curled under, press out to the heel. Draw the lower belly in. And if you like, raising the left foot for bird dog, taking the right arm forward, or balancing table. It's also called balancing table. And then exhale, lower the right hand. Take the left leg across behind the right, toes on the floor, curled under. Lengthen the spine, inhale, and exhale, looking over your right shoulder, a little side stretch. Stretching the left side. And then on your next exhale, bring that left knee back to the original hands and knees position. Walk your hands forward, coming into a happy dog, happy puppy. Extending the hands forward, press down into the floor through the fingertips, and lift the hips, the pelvis up and back. Getting a little stretch for the shoulders, the spine. And then walk the hands back, coming into child's pose. And then bring the hands underneath the shoulders and gently coming up to a kneeling position. So this is where, if you like, you can grab your blocks. And we're going to take our right foot forward between the hands. So now we're getting a little bit of a stretch in the front of that left hip. So in pigeon pose, one leg is forward, one leg is back. The back leg is getting a nice stretch in the front of the hip. So you want to get that a little bit opened up. You can either stay just like this, or if you like, you can play with coming back and forth, going exhale as you come back, inhale as you come forward, and just go back and forth a few times. And then the next time you come forward, staying here, taking the hands to the thighs and push that knee away from you to help lift the lower belly and lift the front of the pelvis. This will increase the stretch in the front of the left hip and thigh. You can either keep your hands on the right knee, or you can extend the arms up if that feels good to you. And breathe. And then exhale, taking the hands to the blocks, lift the back knee. And then draw the right hip back and fold over the right leg for a moment. And then bend the right knee again. So you're in the high lunge. And then we're going to take the right foot back to a downward facing dog. If you want to come onto your knees first, that's fine. So if you'd rather do downward dog with your knees on the floor, which is basically happy puppy like we did earlier, feel free to do that. And then exhale, come on down to the knees if you're not there already. And now again, we're going to take the blocks under the hands as we take our left foot forward into the low lunge. So now we're getting a nice stretch in the front of that right hip. You can either stay just like this, or if it feels good to you, you can exhale, bring the hips back, and play with going forward and back. Inhale forward, exhale back, inhale forward, and exhale back. This time inhale forward and hold, keeping the chest lifted. Now if you like, you can either keep the hands on the blocks or you could take your hands to the left knee and press the knee away from you as you lift the lower belly and draw the lower belly in and lift the front of the pelvis. This will give you a little bit more of a stretch in the right thigh and front of the hip. If you like, you can also raise the arms, optional. And then exhale, lowering the hands back onto the blocks or to the floor. Lift the back knee, coming into a high lunge. Press back to that right heel, lift the thigh, lift the right thigh. And if you like, drawing that left hip back and folding over the leg for a few moments. And then inhale, bending the left knee. And exhale, stepping back again to a downward facing dog. Or happy puppy with the knees on the floor. And then if you aren't on the knees already, come onto the knees. And we're going to come to a seated position. So just take your time transitioning to a seated position with the legs out in front of you. You can have the hips raised, or you can move the blanket to the side. And then we're going to bend up the knees. You could take the hands behind you, bend up the knees with the feet a little bit wider than the mat. And we're just going to take windshield wipers, taking the knees side to side. And the next time you come to the right, either keeping both hips on the floor and staying just like you are, or you can take with keeping the right hand behind you, press the floor away from you, lifting the hips and raising the left arm up and back. And press down into the floor with both your hand and your legs. And then exhale as we come on down. Changing sides, bringing the knees over to the left. Left hand behind you, press into the floor, lift the hips, and reaching the right arm back. Really push the floor away from you. And then on your next exhale, coming on down. Now, we're going to do something called 90-90. This is both a pose unto itself, and it's also a great preparation for pigeon pose. So taking both knees towards the right, just like we had before, but staying here. And you could take your right hand onto your right hip and just make little circles. Don't be forceful. If you feel any pain in that hip, skip it, okay? Just little circles. And then gently guide that hip forward as you rotate to face, the belly and ribcage rotates to face towards the back. Don't force. And then on your next inhale, we're going to come back to a position where we're facing this right shin and maybe staying up here. This is the 90-90 sit. Or if it's comfortable, without strain, you don't feel any strain anywhere, you can come forward over that right leg. So hopefully this is getting you a nice stretch in the outer right hip. And then coming back up, I'm going to change sides. And I'm just going to change my orientation so you can see a little better. You might be facing this way, but I don't want to have my back to you. So I'm going to come into 90-90 sit facing this way. And I'm going to take the left hand onto the left hip and just make little circles, not forcing. And then lovingly guide that hip forward and hold that. Lengthen the spine and rotate the belly and the rib cage to face towards the left or towards the back. And then inhale, come back to the position where you're facing that front shin. And if you like, 90-90 sit, you can gently come forward or stay upright if that feels better to you. So just getting a nice stretch in the outside of that hip. This is basically the front leg in pigeon pose right now. The only difference is that this back leg is bent at a 90-degree angle. Approximately, doesn't have to be exact. And then come back up, and then just come back to the center, and then we're going to come back onto our hands and knees in any way that you like. So now we're going to try pigeon pose. Take it step by step. Step one, just take the right leg forward, right next to the right hand. So now we're getting a nice stretch in the front of the left hip if we're in the upright position. You could come forward if it's too intense. If you feel any pain in your low back, you can come forward a little bit. Otherwise, we're just going to keep this right foot right underneath the right hip. So we're not doing any external rotation of the right thigh. Right now it's just flexion at the right hip and at the knee. Left leg is extended back. And you can stay just like this if you like. Option one. Option two is to allow your right foot to come over towards my left hand just a little bit. Doesn't have to be very far. And again, I'm going to change my orientation just so you can see better. So first option, the foot is just like this. It's right underneath you. Second option, the right foot comes over towards the left hand, but just be mindful of the knee. If there's any strain, skip it. Okay? Or go back to the previous position. Or go back to the 90-90 sit we were doing earlier. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. Now you can play with working what we call the end range strength. So basically we're getting a nice stretch in that right hip and a nice stretch in the left hip. But instead of like dropping down into our flexibility, actually push the legs down into the floor and towards one another a bit and work your strength here. Just hold that for a moment. And then on an exhale, maybe releasing, softening a bit. Now you do have an option of taking a block or a blanket underneath this right hip if you like. If that feels better to you, feel free, either right under one hip or in a way that it's under both of your hips. That's another option. Okay. If you like to come forward, feel free, but if there's any strain in your knee, skip that. Okay? Otherwise, coming forward onto the elbows, you can even rest your head on a block. Feel free to come out anytime. And then coming back to the upright position, taking the hands under the shoulders and coming back up. And in any way that you like, one way to come out is to just come off to the side and let that left leg swing around to the front. Okay? And then we're going to change sides. So transition to hands and knees. Or if you like to come into it from downward dog, feel free. And then we're going to take our left knee forward, right in line with the left hand. So just working that hip flexion and knee flexion, not worrying about external rotation yet. Side note, this is actually also used sometimes in yoga for pelvic health classes. So it's an option, it's valid, all unto itself. So option one is staying here. If there's any low back pain in the upright position, come forward a bit. Option two, again, always optional. Just gently take that left foot towards the right hand. A little bit at a time, not forcing it. And just try to keep the hips about level. If you want to raise the hips or put a block or something underneath, feel free. And then if you like, you can work your end range strength by pressing the knees down into the floor and hugging them towards one another and just hold that tension for a few moments. Breathe. And then exhale, maybe soften. Release that tension, release that downward pressure. And let's play with that again. Inhale, press down, engage, breathe. And then exhale, release. One more time, press down, engage. And then on your next exhale, gently release, and either staying just like this, or if you like, again, you can come out anytime. Otherwise, if you like, you can come onto your elbows. You can even rest your head on a block if you like. And then on your next inhale, gently coming back up, taking the hands under the shoulders to help you come up. And then if you like, come off to your left side and let that right leg swing around to the front. And then we're going to come onto our backs. With the feet hips width apart. Arms down by the sides. Doing a nice gentle bridge pose. So inhale, lifting the hips. And if you like, you can either hold the outer edges of your mat and just roll your shoulder blades towards one another. Or if it feels accessible, if you like, you can interlace the fingers and draw the shoulder blades towards one another. Breathing deeply. And then on your next exhale, releasing the hands, and then slowly come down. Arms out in an angle, about 45-degree angles, palms up. And if you like, taking the feet together and let the knees go out to the sides, reclined bound angle. And then taking the knees back together, going into a knee down twist. Extend the left leg straight with the foot on the floor. And then rolling onto the outer edge of the left hip as you take your right knee lovingly, guide it across for a little knee down twist. Right arm out to the right. Feel free to look straight up towards the ceiling or maybe gazing towards the right, but don't force the neck. Then inhale, bringing the right knee back to center. Both feet to the floor, adjust the hips. So you have a nice neutral spine, neutral pelvis. And then we're going to change sides. Extend the right foot onto the floor, leg straight. Roll onto the outer edge of the right hip. And then take the left knee, lovingly guided across. Either looking up or maybe gazing towards the left. Nice smooth breathing. And inhale, coming back to center. Take both feet to the floor again, adjusting the hips. You have a nice neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and onto the floor for relaxation pose. So the feet are a little bit wider than hips width, arms out to the sides, palms up. If you'd like to cover yourself with a blanket, feel free to do that. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And take rest for a moment. Just notice how you feel. Feel free to stay here for as long as you wish. Otherwise, on your next inhale, give yourself a nice stretch, bringing the feet closer together, the arms up and back, and make yourself as long as you can. Stretch yourself as long as you can. And then exhale and release. Drawing the knees in, give them a gentle hug, and then maybe coming onto your right side and resting here for a moment. Now slowly take your time, coming up to a seated position. The The hands in front of the heart. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're at all interested, feel free to join us for live Zoom classes. There's a link below to see the current class schedule. Love to meet you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.